Welcome to Orgrimmar. Have you come to serve the Horde?
Open in the name of the law.
Open in the name of the law? Don't be silly. Tell me who you are, and what you want, before I call the police.
We are the police. Are you Gillian Boardman?
Me? Of course not. I'm Phyllis O'Toole, and I'm waiting for Mr. Caxton to come home. Now you had better go away, because I'm going to call the police and report an invasion of privacy.
Miss Boardman, we have a warrant for your arrest. Open up at once, or it will go hard with you.
I'm not your Miss Boardman, and I'm calling the police.
The voice did not answer. Jill waited, swallowing. Shortly she felt radiant heat against her face. A small area around the door's lock began to glow red, then white. Something crunched and the door slid open. Two men were there. One of them stepped in, grinned at Jill and said,
"That's the babe, alright. Johnson, look around and find him." "Okay, Mr. Berquist."
Jill tried to make a roadblock of herself. The man called Johnson. Twice her mass, put a hand on her shoulder, brushed her aside, and went on back toward the bedroom. Jill said shrilly,
"Where's your warrant? Let's see your credentials. This is an outrage."
"He's here, Mr. Berquist. And make it as an oyster. 3 guesses what they were up to." "Never mind that. Bring him here."
Johnson reappeared, shoving Smith ahead of him, controlling him by twisting one arm behind his back.
"He didn't want to come. He'll come. He'll come."
Jill ducked past Berquist, threw herself at Johnson. With his free hand he slapped her aside.
"None of that, you little slut."
Johnson should not have slapped her. He had not hit her hard, not even as hard as he used to hit his wife, before she went home to her parents, and not nearly as hard as he had often hit prisoners who were reluctant to talk. Up to this time the man from Mars, by the name Smith, had shown no expression at all, and had said nothing. He had simply let himself be forced into the room with the passive, futile resistance of a puppy who does not want to be walked on a leash. But he understood nothing of what was happening, and had tried to do nothing at all. When he saw his water brother, Joel, struck by this other man, he twisted and ducked, got free, and reached, in an odd fashion, for Johnson. Johnson was not there any longer. He was not anywhere. The room did not contain him. Only blades of grass, straightening up, where his big feet had been, showed that he had ever been there. Jill stared through the space he had occupied, and felt that she might pass out. Berquist closed his mouth, opened it again, said hoarsely,
"What did you do with him?"
He looked at Jill rather than Smith.
Me? I didn't do anything.
"Don't give me that. What's the trick? You got a trapdoor or something?"
Where did he go?
Berquist licked his lips.
"I don't know.
He took a gun from under his coat.
But don't try any of your tricks with me. You stay here. I'm taking him along."
Smith had relapsed into his attitude of passive waiting. Not understanding what it was all about, he had done only the minimum he had to do. But guns he had seen before, in the hands of men on Mars, and the expression on Jill's face at having one aimed at her, he did not like. He grokked that this was one of the critical cusps in the growth of a being, wherein contemplation must bring forth the right action in order to permit further growth. He acted. The old ones, back on Mars, had taught him well. He stepped toward Berquist, the gun swung to cover him. Nevertheless he reached out, and Berquist was no longer there. Smith turned to look at his water brother, Joel. Jill put a hand to her mouth and screamed. Smith's face had been completely blank. Now it became tragically for long, as he realized that he must have chosen wrong action at the cusp. He looked imploringly at Jill, and began to tremble. His eyes rolled up, he slipped slowly down the grass, pulled himself tightly into a focal ball, and was motionless. Jill's own hysteria cut off, as if he had thrown a switch. The change was an indoctrinated reflex. Here was a patient who needed her. She had no time for her own emotions, no time even to worry or wonder about the two men who had disappeared. She dropped to her knees and examined Smith. She could not detect respiration, nor could she find a pulse. She pressed an ear against his ribs. She thought at first that heart action had stopped completely. But after a long time, she heard a lazy lub-dub, followed in 4 or 5 seconds by another. The condition reminded her of schizoid withdrawal, but she had never seen a trance so deep, not even in class demonstrations of hypnoanesthesia. She had heard of such death-like states among East Indian fakirs, but she had never really believed the reports. Ordinarily she would not have tried to rouse a patient in such a state, but instead would have sent for a doctor at once. But these were not ordinary circumstances. Far from shaking her resolve, the events of the past few minutes had made her more determined than ever not to let Smith fall back into the hands of the authorities. But 10 minutes of trying everything she knew convinced her that she could not rouse this patient with means at hand, without injuring him, and perhaps not even then. Even the sensitive, exposed nerve in the elbow gave no response.